What a difference a week makes, huh, faithful? Things have changed significantly since we were here last. It felt like the 49ers season was spinning out of control, and it may be too early to make any definitive statements after the win against LA, but doesn't it give you hope? Doesn't it make you feel just a little more optimistic? I know it does on my end, and I think it's reflected in some of the questions that we have for this week's mailbag. Good evening to you, faithful. Welcome to another episode of 49ers Mailbag, an uplifting week as the 49ers push to 4-5 after demolishing the division rival LA Rams. Finally, winning a home game after more than a year at Levi's Stadium. A frickin' year. Feels good. People seem to be a bit more upbeat this week, and definitely includes myself. As a reminder, the show starts with previously submitted questions that come into 49ersmailbag@gmail.com, through Twitter by hitting me at the left Schuh. You can see that there. Same spelling as my last name, or leave a comment for me on the YouTube video below down here on this video, and I'll check it before next week. But I also welcome your questions live. So in between the previously submitted questions, I'm going to kick back and forth to the chat and get your questions that you have for me while you're watching. Just dipping into the chat to begin with to see who all arrived early and say hello. Todd Keese, how you doing? Let's get it. Hope all is well. In the personal side of things, they're not. But the 49ers side of things are going well. And this too shall pass. No matter what you're going through in life, it will pass. That's a fact. Kimbo coming in. Let's go 49ers fan for life. Chester, good to see you. Ken Fashion Journey coming in. Take it on, Rob. Will do. It is, in fact, dinner time here in Portland, while it is breakfast in Kuala Lumpur. Ken is styling in another country. Karthik, what's going on? Saying the beast is in the house. Richard McDonald coming in. First time, long time. Glad you're here. Interrupts is in the house. Matt, making sure, yes, very punctual indeed. Good to see you here. Napa, let's go. What's up? The 49ers are what's up. Yes, the Sentinel points out winning cures everything. Eric, gotta call out the fact that you are the sneakerhead elite level of membership. The Schuh channel now has officially 2 members. I still haven't broken down a video that explains the perks associated with membership, but basically it's just a way to support the channel if you'd like to, and it comes with some added benefits. For those that are early members, I'm definitely going to go above and beyond to make sure that you feel value in that, but I just want to say hello and thank you, Eric. I didn't see it come on live when it happened, but I noticed it in my settings, so I wanted to say hello. Avtar, hello, how you doing? Glad to see you here. Ooh, Matt coming in, hanging in Salem. You got to let me know if there's some, 49er faithful meetups going around in Portland, because I could sure use some fellow faithful right about now, in particular when we are winning. Yes, motorcycle clubs are not street gangs. They are not. Thank you. I will keep up that good work. All right, let's get into the mailbag questions. As always, if you enjoy the content, I do welcome you to hit the like button. Definitely subscribe if you like it. And if you want to know when I'm going live, hit the little bell icon next to the subscribe. Again, only if you want to know when I'm going live so that you can join in on the action here. I have said it before, and I will definitely say it again. I'm like Christian Slater from the 1990 film Pump Up the Volume. Small little pirate radio signal from Portland, Oregon. And every time each one of you hits a like button, comments on a video, or subscribes, it does send a small signal boost to my little Niner faithful station, and I truly appreciate it. Last thing before I get into the first mailbag question, I want to send a shout out to the North Dakota faithful. Got word from them this week. Wanted to give them a nod. Hello, North Dakota faithful. All right. Let me get into the first mailbag question. All right. This one comes to us from Leo R. Leo fantastically submitted this through Gmail, 49ers mailbag at gmail.com. It's the easiest way for me because then I can keep track of the mailbag questions. I don't have to walk around searching for them. And Leo has been faithful since the early 90s. Now, I shortened his question to, is there anything the faithful can do about Jed? But I want to read you the entirety of his statement because I think it sets the tone. And I think a lot of people feel this way. Hey, Rob. It's pretty well established that the NFL and each team within is a business first. Given that fact, I tend to believe that long-running performance-related issues stem from the very top of the organizational funnel. I've never heard of a single fan being a Jed York supporter, but in managing our expectations, is it realistic to think that he would actually step down or have the team taken away from him anytime soon? And can the fan base do anything tactfully to accelerate that process? For example, major petition signing, onslaught of tweets asking for Jed's resignation, or writing to Denise and John York DeBartolo. I think, unfortunately, I mean, this is the theme, right? I had another mailbag question that asked about my opinions around Jed's decision to raise season ticket holder prices yet again. And let me first say to that I think it's laughable and painful that Jed would choose to do that in this time. I understand that we've got inflation happening and prices are going up and supply chain issues, but I think that the 49ers organization is making a tidy profit regardless. I think they could have waited as opposed to raising season ticket prices for a year. Fans weren't allowed to attend and then doing it again to fans when you're putting what could be described as a mediocre product on the field, given that you're still below 500. So yes, I think it was a bold and dumb decision by Jed to do that. But the bottom line, to answer this initial question, is there anything the faithful can do about Jed? To me, the bottom line is no. There really is no realistic way I see Jed stepping down. He has said as much himself, saying, well, an owner can't really fire himself. I think the best that we can hope for is Jed continues to surround himself by better talent, people that can fill in where he may have deficiencies. But all that said, I have to give credit where credit is due. I've thought that Jed's been better in some aspects. I'm glad that he's not angry tweeting. I'm glad he isn't leaking crazy stories to undermine his coach or his GM. That was chaotic. I'm glad he put his money where his mouth is, and he paid John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, even if the end result of that is that it doesn't end up producing the titles that I hope that it will. I still do have some faith that Kyle and John can turn it around. Still, it's very fair to criticize him. The criticism is 1,000% warranted. Levi's Stadium is the biggest blunder in my book. Not getting a deal done in San Francisco is something most of the 49er faithful, myself included, will never really forgive Jed for. And then building a stadium that clearly maximized profits above all else. So painful when you see the magnificent buildings going up around the league in this country. I have been to the Minnesota Vikings Stadium, which is one of the newer ones, Seattle. Unbelievable what you see of the Mercedes-Benz Dome for Atlanta. Unreal. Even Jerry Jones World in Dallas, having been there, just knocks your socks off. And Levi's doesn't. And it's one of the wealthiest areas of the country. The stadium is a letdown on so many levels. Certainly the Sun on the eastern side failing to change the design of the stadium to adequately take into account the fact that you were not going to build in San Francisco, but were instead going to build in Santa Clara, a big time failure. And I think Jed deserves all of that criticism. I also believe that fans should let Jed hear their displeasure. That is how we can dictate some change. But do not waste any of your hard-earned money in flying any banners or anything like that, because I don't think it's going to make a difference. And then you're just throwing good money after bad. We just have to hope that he continues to grow and learn as an owner. I'm interested to see your reactions to the Jed conversation. Look at that. Joe Mama is a new member of the channel. That is fantastic. Welcome to the channel. Love it. Joining Eric, who says it wasn't live when he joined. It was right afterward. That's fantastic. George, you coming in with the super chat. Thank you, George. If Jacksonville loses, Lawrence gets a buzz cut. Thoughts? I would love to see Sunshine get a haircut. It's a beautiful head of hair. I'm not going to lie. I'm jealous. I may have a beautiful facial hair, but I am missing the up top and would love it. I'm looking for a little bit of commenting on Jed York to see. Okay, here we go. Napa's in here saying, just be happy we aren't the Lions ownership. MLB ownership, Jed is better than them at least. Sorry, I had to zoom in to get a visual of that. Yeah, I think that you have a lot of owners out there that sort of, give you that, how bad could it be? Look at a lot of the issues going on in the NBA, MLB. It's Jed is Jed, right? It's something that, look at this. Ellis says it well. It could be worse. We could be in Las Vegas. That's a key reminder. Anytime you think, oh my God, I hate Jed York, just think that you could be a Las Vegas Raiders fan. You could have Mark as your owner instead of Jed. And I don't think that would be such a positive thing personally. Mark Davis with that haircut, I mean, geez, it is bad. It is really bad. Ellis, I appreciate you putting that in there, hitting the like button. It does help. Absolutely making sure that I can get that signal out to more folks. All right, I'm going to go back into the questions from the mailbag, and then I'll get back into your comments in just a moment. Here's our next topic. After waiving Kirkpatrick, do you see the Niners giving more snaps to Lenoir and Thomas? This comes from Jacob G. And Jacob is coming in from Monterrey, Mexico. And I am literally going to take myself out of the shot for a minute because there's a picture I want to show of Jacob and company. Look at that. That is fantastic, faithful. That is Monterrey, Mexico, a group of Niner faithful fans making their appearance together. They are sponsored or certified by the San Francisco 49ers and one of many international crews representing. I just wanted to give a huge shout out there because I think that is really, really cool. I need to find that group of faithful around here in Portland. All right, so in answer to this question, after waiving Kirkpatrick, do I see the Niners giving more snaps to the two rookies? Yes, I absolutely do. They will still most likely remain buried on the depth chart, in my opinion, but it should mean that both could dress for game days. It appears that Josh Norman and Emmanuel Mosley, are penciled in as the starters at left and right cornerback. So barring an injury to either of those two, you wouldn't see them being replaced at the moment. If Josh Norman continued to play poorly, as I might say that he has, aside from the forced fumbles, then I could see that eventually happening, but I think you would have to see a lot from the rookie in order to get there. And then you obviously have K'Wan Williams in the slot. I think he's a lock. I know some people have gotten down on K'Wan, and he may have lost a half a step, but he's such a heady player. I think he's a great slot corner. And so without injury, I don't see any of those three getting replaced. I'm confused by the case of Demo Lenoir in that he seemed to flash some great things and then absolutely just got pulled from the rotation and we didn't see him again. It could be that they want to maintain his focus on the slot position and they thought it would damage his long-term development to continue moving him around when various injuries popped up. They may have thought that going with the veteran presence there was a more stable way in which to approach this. I'm encouraged on the other with Ambry Thomas. He's finally been in uniform now, and that is absolutely the first step that needs to happen in order to get him to play some snaps. He's got to be dressed on game day. That gives him a chance to step on the field, see some actual snaps on defense, whether it's someone gets dinged up and he gets thrown in, and then it's up to him, Ambry Thomas, to make the most of it and claim that spot and show that he belongs on the field. I think it's entirely possible he's now been in the NFL weight room long enough to add back some of the bulk that it seems clear he would need in order to play more of the press style coverage that he played in college before sitting out the entirety of the 2020 season. All right, next mailbag question before we get back into the comments. Was 2019 a fluke? This comes in from Karthik over Gmail. Now, I truncated this question, so again, I'm going to read out the entirety of the question so that you have all of Karthik's emotion in asking it. This team, this is Karthik's question, this team, mostly the veterans, still carries themselves like they've got 5 winning seasons in a row and act like they have the dog championship winning mentality inside of them. I've been starting to think that 2019 was a fluke, a boom or bust season, and just a curse after all, meaning that it led to the extensions of John and Kyle. What are your thoughts? All right, so I think, for me, I know. For me, up until Monday night, it was fair to have those doubts. And maybe it still is fair to have those doubts. But what I saw against the Rams was absolutely who I thought this 49ers team was at the beginning of the year with the talent that they have on their roster. There's no question to me when you flash back in time and you look at 2017 and 2018, the roster was bleak. It was barren. They did have to start from square one and rebuild this thing. So I don't fault them. I don't know of any coach that would have come in 2017 and won immediately. I don't think I know of any coach that with 2018 and the immediate injury to Jimmy G that could have come in and won a whole lot more than the 49ers did. And that's why I think 2019 caught us by surprise so much, is that 2017 and 18 were so painful. The national media, the local pundits, and Niner faithful included, didn't expect such a magical season to come out of the ashes, rising like a phoenix. But it's fair to say that everything in the NFL is somewhat fluky because it's a tiny margin of error. Most games in the NFL are decided by a single score the vast majority of the time. You could probably, in most of those games, point to one single play that decided the win and loss for the various teams, not just with the 49ers, but with all teams in the NFL. And then seasons are such small sample sizes. It's not like Major League Baseball or basketball, where you have a lot of games, and so a loss or a win doesn't mean that much. You only have 17 games in the NFL. Used to only be 16, right? This is the first year with that 17th. So from week to week, we take wild swings in how we evaluate teams because of that small sample size. We have to draw more from each week because each week matters that much more than other sporting events. It's perfect for overreactions. It sets up perfectly for that. There's no denying, for me, the freak nature of the games missed that following year in 2020. 163 games missed by 49ers players. That's unreal. It is unreal. It's unprecedented. It's the most, I believe, that has ever occurred, and it was a wide margin in that year. Now, COVID played into some of that, and certainly it hurt a lot of teams, but most of the 49ers injuries and missed games were season-ending injuries and muscle pulls and things that were not at all COVID-related. The bottom line in saying all of this is that winning in the NFL is extremely hard, and it's too early for me to say that 2019 was a fluke. I understand people who may lean that direction, but for me, what happens the rest of this year and into next should help really clarify the answer, solidify who this front office and who this coaching staff are, especially going through the early season adversity as we have. I'll end on a positive for 2019, even though I know most people are pained by it. But personally, I could never see 2019 through a negative light, even with the heartbreaking finish. It was too special for me not to appreciate what it was. All right, I want to get back into your comments and see what you all have to say about that. All right. All right, Victor does believe it's time to go. Victor says 49ers need to fire Kyle or John, but one has to go. I won't be shocked if that's the end result, if in fact this season goes poorly. I hope it does not. I truly hope it does not. Interrupts, comes in. Arizona Stadium's really nice too, man. I wish we had a better stadium that was in San Francisco. Yes, absolutely. It is a great stadium. I've been there too, been to Arizona. Love the fact that they have real grass. Biggest gripe about LA's new stadium is you spent all those billions and you went with turf? Are you kidding me? You freaking kidding me? Come on, natural grass, the only way to go. Only way to go. All about that grass, family. Ellis 10, the 49ers are good. Nobody needs to be fired. Hey, if the 49ers turn this around, there's no way anybody gets fired. I don't even know that anybody gets fired if the 49ers end up, say, 8-9. I don't think anybody gets let go. I don't even think you necessarily have to let go of any defensive coordinator or assistant coaches or anything like that. You could see the entirety of the staff intact. And the reason for that is Jed York signed on for this long-term plan. He allowed John and Kyle to give up everything they did to draft Trey Lance. He had to know that there was a possibility this season went poorly. He's not that stupid, I don't think. And so it did. It went poorly. And now all of a sudden, now you're faced with the long-term plan. So I think that's where Jed's got to be. Ellis comes in. If the 49ers make the playoffs, it's all worth it. I understand the frustration. I do too. I get the frustration 1,000%. And I think making the playoffs is a big freaking deal. Frank, loving the show, Rob. Indeed, I do. I appreciate that, Frank. And I appreciate you saying that. It does mean a lot when people let me know what they think of the show. I love it. Karthik coming in. Trey needs to be mixed in with Jimmy during the Jags game so we can get him some starting NFL experience in the first quarter and let the kid play against a team he could beat single-handedly. I like this comment, Karthik. I do think that Trey needs snaps because let's be real, that there's a very distinct possibility Jimmy Garoppolo gets injured at some point in these remaining games, even if he continues to play well, which, let me say, he has played well the last 3 games. I got to give Jimmy his credit where credit is due. But you know that Jimmy could get injured. And you know that Trey's not quite ready yet. And the best way to get him ready is most definitely snaps. So I'm on the same page with Karthik here, believing that Trey should get some snaps. Now, that said, it is fair to call out that I said that before the Rams game. I was wrong. I'm glad that they stuck with exactly what they did against LA. 49ers first takes. Aaron coming in with the super chat. Thank you, Aaron. Aaron and I did a fantastic show yesterday on Aaron's channel, 49ers first takes. If you didn't see it, go over there, check out the content. I always enjoy interacting with Aaron. We have a great dialogue on that, saying drop a like and subscribe to Rob. I appreciate that, Aaron. Thank you very much for coming in to say that. Paul, players need to play with the same energy and execution the rest of the year for us to have a chance at the playoffs. Keep grinding, sir. Love the content as always. Thank you for the compliment, Paul, and agree wholeheartedly. What we saw on Monday night is the new standard. That's the way the Niners need to do it going forward. Sean coming in. Rob, just want to say hello, sir. Have a great show. I got to get the kiddos. Go grab them kiddos and make sure that you've got them home safe and sound. Yes, indeed. Ellis coming in. I am glad I found out you had a channel through Grant. You are crushing it, man. Thank you for the optimism and premium grade content. Thank you, Ellis. Really appreciate that. Javier, what's good, man? Good to see you. Interrupts. This is the game that they needed. Hopefully they can build off this and carry it into the rest of the season. Yes, right up my alley, Interrupts. They have to come out physical. They have to stick to this identity. When you find your identity again, don't lose it. Don't lose it, Kyle. Eric coming in. Monday night showed 2019 wasn't a fluke, but they have to figure out how to sustain that level of play. Yeah, and Kyle called this out, right? Great coaches need to be able to get A-level effort from their A-level players on a consistent basis. So the 49ers stars on defense, you got to have Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, Jimmy Ward, all made plays in some way on Monday night, all need to continue making plays, and some of those guys have to balance out what other players are doing, need more from them, even more than what we're seeing right now. On the offensive side of the ball, same thing. We have got to set the tone, in my mind. Ellis coming in. Tart coming off of IR, would like to start. Tart or Hufanga? Who would I like to start? This one is tough. I like what I saw on Twitter from one of the beat reporters suggesting that it's possible we see both. I do think there are added advantage to either player. Tart, when healthy, is a very good strong safety. He's had some rough games this year. He's the more experienced of the two, certainly understands the defensive schemes more. As an NFL veteran, you highly expect that he knows what he's going against, right? The opposing offenses. He's seen more. He's experienced more. So that feels like a more secure guy to start. But man, Hufanga's flying around with his head cut off. That's a contagious energy that this entire defense could use, that everyone on the field could benefit from, and he has a nose for the ball. So I would say that I'd love to keep him in there getting snaps. Karthik coming in. Thanks for taking my time. UES tune, Rob. I don't know what UES. I'm going to Google that UES tune after that, unless it was a typo. Lapakalolo, Niners are a Jekyll and Hyde team, LOL. Yeah, hopefully it's now one or the other from here on out. Hopefully they have woken from their slumber, Lapakalolo. All right, Frank coming in. 2019 was special, but you can't pay everyone. I feel we spent a lot of money on past performance that did not continue into the next season. I think that's fair with Eric Armstead. I think I would struggle to really call out a lot more contracts other than, being in a rock and a hard place with Jimmy G's contract. You could now probably point out that it would have been a better move to have a conversation with Jimmy that says, listen, you're not our starter going forward. Would you ever consider being the starter for now and a backup after that? And I would guess his ego would say no way, and his checkbook as well. But they could have extended him, lowered his cap number, and invested those dollars in other players. And I think in hindsight, that obviously would have been a better decision. Now, I don't know. Yeah, they paid some players, but for the most part, I'm happy with it. I wouldn't lump George Kittle into that group, but there are some others that you could make a case for, I think. Okay, Karthik says, so is Mule back on the cold seat? I don't know who Mule is. Ellis 10, Greenlaw is coming off IR as well. Do you believe he should take over his previous starting position or just take the back seat? I like what Shanahan said in that he's got to earn it back. Al-Shaair, man, with that freaking bent face mask tackle that he had with the wallops he's laying on people, the time where it was a pass, I think it was Sony Michel, caught it out of the backfield, but I think it was still behind the line of scrimmage or within a couple of yards and slipped and fell. And Al-Shaair didn't run over and touch him. He pounced on him. And that's the energy we need, because it's that type of energy that when the ball pokes loose, if Josh Norman can continue the peanut punch as he does, you need guys whose head is on a swivel, who are energized, who are flying around and are making plays like that. John Garcia saying, Rob, you're the best. Go Niners. Thank you, John. Very kind of you. Gerson coming in. Good to see you, Gerson. They cannot have a letdown against the Jags. If that happens, this past game against the Rams means nothing. Stick to the same game plan, Shanahan, no matter what. Yes, force them to get you away from that game plan. Amen to that. Karthik, is Kyle back on the cold seat then? I think Kyle may be back on the cold seat. He would tell you he was never on the hot seat. Jed might tell you he was never on the hot seat. Fans put him on the hot seat, for sure. I don't think he's off the hot seat with all of the fans. I would say that there's probably still a group of fans that feel like, well, it was just one win. Prove more to me. Give me more of that. If you can give me more of that the rest of this year, then I'm back on board. To me, you know me, I'm glass half full guy. So I was never off board, and it doesn't take much to get me back on board. Felipe saying, LOL. I wouldn't say cold seat, more like lukewarm. This is what I'm talking about. This is the fan saying, hey, Kyle, hey, thank you, and not quite cold yet. Gerson coming in. By the way, Rob, I have that same Niner mug. That's my favorite coffee mug. I freaking love it. It is my favorite Niner mug that I have ever had. I've had some good ones. I've had some ugly ones. NFL gear wasn't so pretty back in the 90s. They didn't invest as much money in their styles. Or maybe our styles were just weird in the 90s. Other than the chalk line and starter jackets, those gold jackets. God, you know I love them. And the starter parkas that they used to have. Oh, my God. The Niners wasn't the greatest of those parkers. It was still great. But, man, those starter parkas from the 90s were epic. But, hey, this is my favorite mug. Thank you, Gerson. Okay, here we go. Karthik, today was Dre Greenlaw's first practice on the practice field. Same with Jaquaski. Yes, both of their practice windows were opened. They have 3 weeks in order to be activated to the actual roster. It seems very likely that both will be activated, and I'll tell you why. Because the 49ers cleared the roster spaces. So they have 2 open spaces sitting there, and they haven't backfilled those with practice players or anyone else. So that sets up pretty nicely to have both rejoin the active roster here at the very first attempt. All right, Felipe, I was going to say start both safeties. You gotta have them both in there. If what you're saying is Tart and Hufanga in there, back and forth, I'm with you 100% because you got to have that energy on the field. It seemed that was the indication that the coaching staff was giving. I believe that was today or yesterday that came out. Sometimes my days blend together. Karthik back in. Also, that physicality from the Niner D on Monday Night Football was just furious and explosive as hell. Yes, it was. It was phenomenal. I loved the energy that I saw. And I hear now that there was a players-only meeting that took place for the defense, just the defense. Thank God. Because that was the unit where it felt like what was missing was heart and fire and enthusiasm and reckless abandon and the things that make defense great. Go watch Ray Lewis talk about playing football. Talk about owning another man's soul. Talk about truly going toe-to-toe with an opponent and enforcing your will upon them. That is the structure of any defense. That is the execution needed for a defensive player, and it seemed missing. Whatever that meeting was, it seems to have lit a fire, and we've got to hope that the 49ers can carry that forward. Yes. Karthik, yes, it was a typo. Question, not UES. LOL. Yes. Now it makes a heck of a lot more sense. Armchair QB1. Oh, good news. Thank you. I was wondering about Greenlaw. Yes, glad to have him back. Ryan, thank you for the donation. Truly appreciate that. Very kind of you. Interrupts. I'm hoping it wasn't just a good matchup against the Rams. If they start slow against the Jags like they have the previous weeks, then I can't be very optimistic about the rest of the season. A slow start would be rough, but don't be shocked if we have a slow start. As long as we win it handily, the slow start shouldn't be too concerning. Let me tell you why. You're coming off of a short week, one less day. You're going cross country, one of the longest possible trips. I would need to do some math, but it's either New England or one of the Florida teams that is the furthest away, probably Miami. But a lot of flight miles logged. An early start, 10 a.m., which, obviously is harder on the body when you're used to playing at 1. And coming off a very emotional win. Hard not to have a letdown against a team that you're expected to beat handedly. It's a classic trap game. If it starts slowly, I'll be sweating. I will be sweating. But as long as the 49ers pull it together and have a convincing win, I'll be okay. But I get what you're saying. Interrupts. Felipe coming in. Why not rotate Greenlaw and Al-Shaair as well? That one, that's interesting. I think that big play Dre, it's hard for me to not to call to mind all of the big freaking plays he has had. I was there in Seattle with my wife when we watched that last second victory in 2019. God, that was amazing. I got to trust that the meritocracy approach will work and the best player will play. I could see that as a rotation as well. Do love big play Dre. Ryan coming back in. What's up, Rob? Go Niners, about to go on a run. Go get that exercise. Come back. Watch the show later. Boom. Love it. Love it. Jan pointing out Kyle lost the locker room, they said. Yes, those people that stayed faithful throughout probably can take a bit of a victory lap. Be cautious on said victory laps, though, because again, this had to set up in a certain way, right? Before the Arizona game, I said they only needed to win one of the next two. So when they lost to Arizona, sadly, which seemed like the very easy route to winning one of those two, it meant they had to beat LA. And I was a bit dejected by that because I didn't think that the San Francisco 49ers matched up against the LA Rams this year. I thought this would be the time that LA would kick off the little brother syndrome and come out and show the 49ers that they are probably a more talented roster as far as superstars go. But you wonder if the superstar approach does work out. Look at the last time a team tried it in Philadelphia. It will be interesting to see how the Rams go from here. But be careful with the victory laps because the 49ers have to keep it up. It sets up now they did win one of the next two. They got to go on and beat Jacksonville. Have to. Armchair QB1. We used to make our own Niners mugs in ceramics class. Throwing it back. Do the kids still take ceramics classes nowadays? I took a ceramics class. I don't think I made my dad a mug way back in the day in grade school. That thing wasn't so pretty. I made a pencil cup for my dad one time, and I put the pencil holes with a pencil and then baked it in the kiln. This was like second grade, so don't clown on me too hard. But I had no idea that in baking it in the kiln that the pencil holder would expand, the clay would expand. And so all those little holes that I made big enough for a pencil were too small. So it was completely useless. It just looked like some weird blue monster. He kept it on his work desk for most of his life. I have it now because it cracks me up. But man, good dad to put that on his desk. That's for sure. It was a joke. Ellis 10. At me. Didn't feel good to see the 49ers offense chipping away at the Rams defense. Didn't it feel good? Yes, it did. Nothing deep, nothing crazy, just steady and consistent. My goodness, they ran it up the field. They walked it up the field. 3.5 yards at a time sometimes. Jeff Wilson Jr. averaged under 3 yards a carry. Elijah Mitchell just under 3.5 yards per carry. This was a dominant win, but they just stuck to it. It wasn't that they were running for all these yards per carry. Now, Debo was, but that's because Debo's freaking crazy good. But yeah, it just was an ass whooping. That's what it felt like. Jan coming in. Then they win in a complete team effort for the first time of the year. Talk about losing a locker room. Yes, indeed. All right, a couple more comments, and then we're getting back over to the previously submitted mailbag questions. Victor coming in. Rob, do you believe the Niners can make a run for the playoffs when you see the remainder of the schedule? Man, I'm glad I got this question before I went back over the mailbags because I love it. Yes, I think it's entirely possible that 9-7 with a few tiebreakers or 10-6 wins a playoff spot. And I think when you look at the remainder of the 49ers schedule, if they can beat the teams that they should beat and be competitive against those others and steal one game here or there, they should absolutely be able to make 9-8 or 10-7. And I think if they can make it to that vaunted 10-7 record, then they're good. That means they can only lose 2 more games. Maybe it's the Titans. Maybe it's the Rams at the end of the season. With the way we played the Rams, though, you would think that we'd be pretty optimistic about that. So if it's just the Titans, if the Rams, let's say, earn a spot and rest some starters and, don't want to go up against a full-strength 49er team clawing for the last playoff spot, it could be that we could afford to drop the one to Cincinnati or a random game here or there. The point is that there are still some paths to victory, and it fires me the F up. Okay, back over to the mailbag questions. Make sure that I've got the right one here. Okay, my thoughts on apparently drafting for the future. Darius comes in via Gmail. His full question was this. What are your thoughts on Kyle Shanahan saying the first few rounds of this year's draft were essentially made for next season? I find it extremely frustrating, Niner faithful. It does feel like a complete overestimation of the talent that was on the roster versus the rest of the NFL, and in particular, the rest of the NFC West. If you truly thought you could get away with investing a first, second, and 2/3 in players that you didn't expect to get much out of this year, that was flawed logic going into the season. It deserves criticism. It deserves rebuke from 49er faithful. That's a terrible idea. The NFL is too hard. You can't afford to take rounds off in the playoffs. It was hard enough to see you giving up a first-round pick that we all sort of knew wouldn't likely contribute significantly this year. Well, maybe not all, but a lot of people, if you believed what the organization was telling you, you could tell all along that they were going to slow play the development of Trey Lance. And that probably meant very few contributions this year. I get it with the cornerbacks, though. I think that he meant that they didn't think they'd be needed right away. They had their starters penciled in. Now, was it a bad idea to rely upon Jason Verrett, who has a very long injury history? I think that was a bad plan for your cornerback one. If you could have had him as your second best cornerback on the roster, that would have been a value add. That would have been a wise decision in my book. If E-Man was your third best corner and you had Verrett as the second, or as, 1A, 1B, if you had another talented corner on the roster, I don't think it would have been a flawed idea. But to rely on Jason Verrett, yeah, that was rough. So you should have picked a cornerback that you thought could step in and start. You should have. But the most painful to me are Aaron Banks and Trey Sermon. Both of those picks are at positions that are somewhat devalued in the NFL draft. A mid-second round pick for an interior lineman, you're definitely you're expecting that guy to start right away. I don't care what the organization says. You expect him to come in and start right away, especially if they're coming in for a replacement of a below average guard. If you base it on last year's results for, God, why am I blanking on Daniel Brunskill? And below average for what we've seen so far, aside from the very strange dominance of Aaron Donald. Let's not forget to call that out, that somehow Daniel Brunskill has Aaron Donald's name. He has his number. The best defensive tackle in the league, Brunskill's like, yeah, I got this. Everyone else struggles. But hey, it is what it is. Matchups in the NFL, all about the matchups. Trading up, when we talk about Trey Sermon, trading up for a third-round running back, it's absolutely fair to say that when they did that, they were envisioning him as a Tevin Coleman role, where it would have been much more of a split, especially if Elijah Mitchell had still flashed what he did, if they had gotten from Sermon what they expected and played him. You could have seen a split in total carries close to the three-headed monster that they had in 2019, where it was basically divided evenly between Mostert, Coleman, and Breida. And that, for me, was such a recipe for success because it kept everyone from getting so dinged up. I worry about that with Elijah Mitchell. He has had a shoulder, a rib, and now a fractured finger. And it looks like he's going to be able to play through the vast majority of those. He seems to be a tough individual that's willing to gut it out. But yeah, it's fair to criticize that draft strategy and fair to think that they probably just missed on some of those and now are saying that it was, with eye toward 2022. All right, this one comes in with some passion here. This one comes in from Matt. Matt coming in via Twitter. Why is Josh Norman still on the team? He is the champion of asking why Josh Norman is legitimately still on the team. And to this I say, great question, Matt. One, I'm not actually sure I have the answer for. After the Arizona game where he blew up against Cliff Kingsbury, I would have cut him. It might have been an overreaction, but I would have. I felt the same way the next day, a couple days after. Even now, in my rational mind, I think I would have. It would have been a clear message of what isn't tolerated. But, it's I get it. To me, if you're a veteran presence, you got to act like it. I understand, though, the idea that it would have been a slippery slope to cut someone after one mistake, even if it was such a costly mistake, such as the one that Norman made. As far as I can tell, the 49ers are, in fact, a meritocracy, and they do play the best player for the most part, with weird doghouse exceptions that they make at times, I think we can all say. I'm going to credit Josh with the fact that he leads the league in forced fumbles. Just in case you were not aware of that, he is an expert on the peanut punch. And the 49ers desperately need turnovers on defense. So it could be that their love affair with Josh Norman is his ability to turn the ball over. And that could offset some of the bonehead penalties, plays, and missed assignments that have happened. And you would expect him to continue to get more and more comfortable within the defense. Maybe he brings something out behind the scenes, an intangible that we don't know about. Maybe Ambry Thomas was just that far away from being able to contribute. And so the 49ers have very few options behind that. I'm certainly not advocating to re-sign Dre Kirkpatrick and put him in place of Josh Norman. The problem this year is the failed strategy around building from the defensive line and not executing on that, because the defensive line hasn't been dominant aside from Bosa, and therefore there's more asked of the defensive backs. I believe if the Niners can get their line back to some level of elite play, then Josh Norman would be a much more suitable cornerback for the team because there wouldn't be as much asked of him. He wouldn't have to cover for as long. The defensive line would create opportunities for him to be the ball hawk. And as long as he keeps practicing that peanut punch, I think there's probably a role for him on the team. All right, I want to get back into the comments because I don't want to lose the pace of people that are in here. All right, gotta look. Okay, Karthik asks, is Jacksonville or Tennessee a longer flight ride? And it's not a 1 o'clock game as well. I think Jacksonville is the further of those two, but I would need to look on the map. My guess would be Jacksonville is the further flight, but I bet somebody could tell me with a quick Google search. Ellis10 comes in. If you see the 49ers stick to the run regardless of success, you will see a win, man. I hope so. Daniel coming in. Only thing that doesn't make me optimistic to beat Jacksonville is that if I remember correctly, Niners have lost after winning a primetime game and then have an East Coast game on a short week. Am I correct? I would have to check that, Daniel. That's a very specific question about record after coming off of a primetime win, heading out to an East Coast game, but it wouldn't surprise me. Again, short week, lot of travel, 10 o'clock start, emotional high leading to a bit of a letdown. The Niners have to very much guard against this. It would be a travesty. We would riot. We might, it would be ugly. Let's just say that. It would be ugly if that in fact happened. Interrupts. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to see. They need to stick to the run. Yes, indeed. Jason Walsh, I am more hopeful after that win. Hopefully, we can keep this train going. Yes, indeed. Jan pointing out that my creation in ceramics class went from a pencil cup to a salt shaker. I didn't even think of that. That would be a good use of said pencil cup to a salt shaker. Indeed. Gerson coming in. Heard Mitchell had surgery today on his finger. I believe that was actually Tuesday. Let's hope that it was not an issue during the game on Sunday. Wilson will probably get more touches as a result. Sermon in there as well. You would think it would divvy up more touches to the other two backs. Yes, he did have surgery. A pin was placed into his finger. As I read today, correct me if I'm wrong, he did not practice today, but they are expecting him to play Sunday. I don't know if it is in his primary ball carrying hand or if it's in his offhand. Either way, it matters. It's something to watch. It makes me want the carries to be divided up a little bit more. What I saw of Sermon led me to believe that he is capable, that he can shoulder some of the load here, and it would take some of that off of Elijah Mitchell, which I think is necessary. Karthik coming in. Sean McVay is officially Shanahan's son. And also Wilson Jr. had a very decent day for each run he popped off. I thought that Jeff Wilson looked good, and his dark attitude, the dark side, the Dexter side of him that people have talked about, his dark passenger, the fact that he goes to a dark place on game days and he's such a sweet guy otherwise, I love it. More 49ers need that switch. They need to flip it. Juice feels like somebody who could be a little more angry at times. Now, I know He has a different style of leadership, and I'm not questioning Juice. I love Juice. I love both Juszczyk and Juice. Orange juice is very tasty. But yes, in fact, I think more 49ers could benefit from that dark place. It's a physical game of football. Anger's a good thing. JB coming in, Schuh spitting it. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Interrupts. Rodgers may not be playing against the Vikings. He didn't practice today. That could change things. Thankfully, the 49ers have the Vikings and the Falcons on their schedules. So they basically control both of those. Like, it's not necessarily that they need those teams to lose other games. If the 49ers can match their win-loss record and beat them in the in-person matchup, they would climb ahead of both of them. The team that they don't play that I'm still anxious about is the Carolina Panthers. And it all hinges on the shoulders of Cam Newton. Does he have some magic left in him, or will he implode that team? Ellis, I know Rob Schuh is proud of his autofocus camera. We are all proud of Rob Schuh for bringing excellent content every week. You know I love that autofocus. You know I can't get enough of that autofocus. It's too clean. Too clean. Steve-O coming in. Good thing you didn't make a ceramic shoe. No, we used to have a cool... someone gave my dad, for a work gift, a bronzed loafer. And it was priceless. It was just this wood block with a bronzed loafer on top of it. And it sat on our fireplace. And it was our little shoe emblem. I can't recall who gave it to him, but I loved it. And I'm sad that I don't know where it is nowadays. Felipe, yeah, I agree. If that's what Shan said, it's ridiculous. I think that was in regard to drafting for the next season. Okay, Daniel coming in. Kyle Shanahan got it all wrong with that mentality. Mentality should always be to win now, and you have to take advantage of everything at hand, including all draft picks or free agency signings. Yes, they should have taken a different approach, it would seem. But it's still early. Let's not write off all of these rookies. They could all go on to have great careers. The odds of that are very slim. But you would think several of them will pick it up and have better careers. Lapakalolo joined the membership, becoming a sneakerhead on the channel. Thank you, Lapakalolo. Again, I will put out a video that details what being a sneakerhead is, but I will do my damnedest to provide the value for the members. Daniel, coming back in. You have to always put your best men on the field, no matter where they come from. I know you always have to respect your vets, but completely disregarding other players is pure BS. Yes, indeed, that is. Bebop Jones is still hyped. Love it. Michael, I'm going to assume that was just in regard to something hilarious that I said, of course. Karthik, I'll be fine with Brunskill having the best DT's number in the freaking game. That's a very big statement to put on his profile. Yes, I hope he can carry forward the momentum. I used to be very high on Daniel Brunskill, and then he just seemed to continue to drop off a bit. I've heard that he's playing at what is not his natural position. There are folks who believe he's a natural tackle and that guard is just unfortunate. And therefore, the Aaron Banks pick is doubly painful because it prevented Daniel Brunskill from getting back to the swing tackle role where he could have been the backup tackle at both left and right. And then Jalen Moore could have been behind him, right? It would have added to the depth of this roster if only Aaron Banks had been able to come through. I'm still optimistic he can at some point this season. Jan coming in. Kyle adds a plus value to old players in his evaluation, thinking their experience will limit the mistakes. It sure seems that way, doesn't it? Zark Muckerberg says, I think part of the team is done with Kyle. Kyle knows who they are, so he sits them. I don't know if that is entirely true. I think that Kyle has, I got some inside information from Matt Schuh that was pretty critical. I mean, he was there at the game. I'm going to put it out in another episode that I do later this week, but he was watching the sideline with a set of binoculars and looking for body language. And from what he saw, it sort of contradicts this statement that what he saw with Shanahan was a guy who carries a certain weight when he walks around that sideline. And maybe it was because he was so far into his bag that night that people couldn't believe how well he was calling the plays. Maybe that got him back some of his mojo. We shall see. We shall see, faithful. Eli coming in. The only reason Norman is on the team is because Shanahan likes him. That could be. There are some instances where Shanahan does have some favorites. Tom Compton comes to mind. He is potentially the worst tackle in the league, or near the bottom, if we're honest with it. Not to degrade him. You're still a world-class athlete. You're still one of the best people in the world to play football, even if you're the worst tackle in the league. But someone has to be worse. So if it is Tom Compton, a guy who goes to, Cabo, it makes you wonder. It does. All right, here we go. Bebop believes Josh Norman is still a solid cornerback besides the penalties. Eli points out that's a lot of penalties. Donald coming in. Good to see you here. Steve-O Supremo. We can't rush the quarterback when the other team has a lead. That's why the run works so well against the Rams. It's frustrating that we can't seem to get pressure. I don't think that the Rams offensive line is all that fantastic, and we weren't able to capitalize against it. Bosa looked good. God, he gets held on every freaking play, doesn't he? That is so aggravating to watch Bosa get held over and over and over again. But he still got his sack. He's still getting his. Eli, glad he subscribed. I'm glad you did too. Thank you for joining. Absolutely. Karthik, I'm happy for this Niner gang. Bang, bang, Niner gang. Let's go. Zach, back in. Not busy running meta. The win against LA was great, but this team can't play from behind. That's when Jimmy struggles. They won't get 2 turnovers in the first quarter very often. That's an astute observation, Zach. That might be the case. When the 49ers were up, I still worried that maybe the Rams could come back because the Rams have a high-powered offense and can score very quickly. If it were reversed and the 49ers had been down 17-0, I would have been pretty hopeless at that point because then you have to get away from the run. Now you're asking Jimmy to do a heck of a lot more. So it really is about complementary football. Yes, indeed. Napa 2323. At work at the moment, great way to pass the time. How about Debo, Offensive Player of the Year candidate? Be awesome. Yes, it would. That would be epic. He is the NFC Player of the Week this week. He only trails Cooper Kupp in being the leading receiver in the NFL. Debo is having himself a season and earning himself a bag of cash. Eli, I'd put it up, but can't have the F-bomb up there. He said, F it, run it 60 times against the Jags. I love it. I love it. Okay. That's a weird comment. Gonna have to block that because that's strange. All right. Headed into Karthik. Why don't they limit Mitchell's carries? Save his full inner rookie potential going into the playoffs. Like the 49ers rode Mostert entire way through in that NFC Championship game. I would agree that you got to keep Mitchell fresh, man. You cannot afford to lose him because he is critical, much like Mostert, when you had to toss out a portion of this playbook. If you were to lose Mitchell at this point, it would be devastating to this team. And that's true with a lot of NFL teams, that injuries decimate them and change seasons, no question. But you got to wonder if keeping him fresh wouldn't be beneficial. Eli coming in, Vikings going to be an important game for us. Very, very important and very winnable. Very winnable. Felipe, that's true. I hope they give Sermon more carries. I think Sermon was averaging 4.8 a carry. Makes no sense why Trey is in the doghouse. Shaking my head. Agree with that. On this one, what's up, faithful from Niner Sickness? How you doing, Niner Sickness? Good to see you. All right, Zray's in here. Does every team in our division need to suck the rest of the season for us to get a better spot in the playoffs? I don't think so. The 49ers, in my estimation, are very capable of beating a beleaguered Seattle team. It's a tough matchup. It's not an easy one. The Niners, if they don't play in the way they played the Rams, could drop it for sure. This team has proven capable of dropping games that they really shouldn't. But I think the 49ers have shown that they can beat the Rams. So week 17, you're good there. We're done playing Arizona. And then you've got Seattle. So really all the 49ers need to do is focus on themselves. Focus on getting the wins they need to get to that 10-7 record. I feel confident saying if they get to 10-7, they make it to the playoffs this year. Gerson, I have the Niners and the Saints taking the last 2 spots for the wild card. Who do you have, Rob, besides the Niners, of course? Yeah, my 3 teams that I see vying for the last 2 spots are the Saints, the Cardinals, and the Niners. That's my prediction for... Actually, it's hard to write off the Vikings. If I had to pick 2 right now, I'm going Carolina and 49ers. I think that the Saints, without a starting quarterback, they've got a great defense. They've got a great head coach, but it's tough to win without a true starting quarterback. And Carolina just got one in Cam Newton, as long as he can stay healthy, stay on the field, and not blow up the locker room in some strange way. Not that he has a history of that or anything, but he gets labeled that way. Perhaps unfairly. James, how did Jacksonville beat Buffalo? Someone give me Spark Notes. I need to go back and rewatch that as I get ready for this Jacksonville game, as I start to predict how the 49ers will do. I think it goes back to anything can happen any given Sunday. The ball bounces strangely in this league. It's all about matchups. Take the 49ers against the Rams. Is it just a matchup that favors the 49ers? Rams are an easy one for the 49ers because they're built to stop the pass. The 49ers' identity is to run the ball. If they can get going as they did, very tough to stop. Is that just a matchup? Or are the 49ers turning the corner here? Are they turning the corner? James saying, Tom Compton played well Monday night. Change my mind. I have to give credit where credit is due. He did play well, and he deserves credit for a tough start where he wasn't slated to start. Jalen Moore comes in, gets injured, the knee injury, and has to step in. Tip of the cap to Tom Compton. James, all things considered, of course. Debo Samuel, fan, need to see some consistency from this team. A step in the right direction is all this win is. On to the next week. I love it. I love it. Okay. Steve-O saying it would be Atem by his name, not Meta. LOL. Yes, it would. Well played there, doing the flipping of the letters. Daniel coming in. I saw today's Sportsline odds for every team making the playoffs. Niners are above Vikings, Falcons, Panthers, Philadelphia, Seattle, and Washington football team. All their direct competition for the 7th spot. Minnesota, Seattle, Atlanta are must-win games. Love that insight, Daniel. Thank you for putting that up there because I love getting the stats out to the stat heads in the chat. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. Those are must-win games. The 49ers need to go into every game going forward with the mentality that they must play like they did against the Rams. All right, I'm getting back to, I just got a couple more of the previously submitted questions. Don't you worry. I'll be back into the comments in just a second. We're only 5 minutes behind in the comments, so this is working out well. Going like gangbusters, people. We are enjoying this, aren't we? I certainly am. This one was in regard to Jimmy and Debo. Lyle Shamaham. The only last name I'm throwing out there because I'm guessing it's not real. I could be wrong. The Shamaham family might absolutely exist. And why not name your child Lyle after Lyle Lovett, of course. But this one I paraphrased as well. So paraphrased it to removing Debo's yak yardage. Are Jimmy's numbers good? The actual question was, it's fair to say his air yards are not good relative to the rest of the league. But if you compare the top 2 receivers in the league between, this was my notes, my answers. So, okay, that was the direct question. Removing Debo's yaks, are Jimmy's numbers good? So the comparison is valid. The question is valid. The air yards are not good, but this is the way I broke it down. I compared the 2 top receivers in the league. I wanted to look at Cooper Kupp, who we just played, who had a great game, right? 110 receiving yards in that game, even though didn't get the touchdowns that they needed, and Debo. And the numbers get interesting to me. To me, the question is it scheme or is it limitations that put Jimmy where he is? Is it Kyle's offensive scheme or is it Jimmy's physical limitations that put those air yards below? So let's dig into the numbers. Cooper Kupp, average depth of target is 8.6 yards, and his average yards per reception, 13.4. 8.6 and 13.4. That's about 5 yards of yak on every reception. Debo's average depth of target, 8.4. About the same as Cooper Kupp's 8.6. You want to know what his yards per reception is? 18.1. The man's getting nearly 10 yards, nearly a first down of yak yards on every reception. That's absurd, people. Absurd. For good measure, I threw in Chris Godwin, another very elite wide receiver who has a pretty damn good quarterback throwing him the ball. He also sits at 8.5 average yards of depth per reception and 12.6 yards per reception. So even lower than Cooper Kupp, right? He's only getting 4 yards of yak per reception. Debo, 10. So it's really not that Debo is getting the ball shallow when compared to similar stars. It's just that he is doing so much more with every single reception that he has. I mean, not every single one, but you get the hyperbole. To me, it's much more of a reflection on how special Debo is. The credit belongs for Debo, not criticism as much for Jimmy. To me, Jimmy's issues have more to do with turnovers, holding the ball too long, taking unneeded sacks by doing that, not throwing the ball away, missing reads, and fumbles. Although even in his fumbles this year, through the halfway point, he has 5, but that mirrors his 2019 output of 10. So if he goes another 5 fumbles for the second half of the season, he'll be at the same as 2019. So I started digging in. I wanted to compare the rest of Jimmy's stats from this year to 2019. His yards per attempt sit at 8.3 this year, which is pretty close to his 8.4 average in 2019. This year, a 66% completion percentage, down from just 69% completion percentage in 2019. So not that far off. So far, through 8 starts, Jimmy has 1,936 passing yards. Now remember, he did not play in the Arizona game. So bump this out over a 16-game season, 8 starts, multiply that by 2, 3,872 yards. That's not far off of his 2019 pace of 3,978. And he missed half a game. So really 7.5 games. So it would be even closer. I thought for sure that his touchdown to interception ratio would be different. Worse. It's not. 27-13 was his touchdown to interception ratio in 2019, compared to 10-5. Now he's throwing fewer touchdowns, but the ratio is the same. A 2-to-1 ratio in touchdown to picks. After the Week 2 win, Joe Staley said something that I believe to be the most relevant. So I'm going to read you this Joe Staley quote. He didn't have the huge plays down the field, and that's what I think everybody that loves fantasy football and the stats and all these stat patterns and stuff want to like. Well, he's not throwing the ball 40 yards downfield, Staley said Monday on KNBR. Well, that's not what he's asked to do in this offense. It never has been. If you look at Kyle Shanahan's offense, it's never really been that. It's been about controlling the clock, moving the ball downfield, and doing what it takes to win. So it is a bit unfair to criticize Jimmy G when he's doing what's asked of him within the scheme and doing it pretty damn well for the most part of the season, in particular the last 3 games. It's fair to wonder how much of that scheme is based around Jimmy's limitations as a quarterback. That's possible, that the offense is limited because of Jimmy. But it's the coach's job to maximize a player's skill set. So to me, this becomes a bit of the chicken or egg type argument. Which came first, Jimmy's limitations or Kyle's scheme that relies on a lot of yak yardage? It seems to me that Kyle drafts players that are positionless. So I lean toward the idea that Kyle prefers the offense with favorable matchups and a yak focus, system-based. The drafting of Trey would indicate that he wants to add to that he sees the limitations of Jimmy. But it's kind of wild to me how close Jimmy's season is to what he did in 2019. It's a good illustration that perhaps the biggest drop-off to this point may have been with the defense and the run game, at least until the 49ers found Elijah Mitchell. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. Getting down to our second to last previously submitted mailbag question, here we go. If Elijah Mitchell misses time due to his fractured finger, who do you believe will be RB1 versus the Jaguars? Rick coming in via Twitter. Cheers to you, Rick. All right. The immediate replacement would seem to be Jeff Wilson Jr. Here's how I see the order on the depth chart, according to Kyle Shanahan. Number 1, clearly Elijah Mitchell by a mile, a country freaking mile. Then it seems like Jeff Wilson Jr. and trusted for good reason. Love the mental attitude, the outlook, the dark passenger that he takes aboard when he steps onto the field. I have no problem with Jeff Wilson Jr. being in that 2 spot. And then third seems to be JaMychal Hasty when healthy. I would guess if if Mitchell, Jeff Wilson Jr., and JaMychal Hasty were all healthy, I think Trey Sermon wouldn't even dress. That's weird. So I think Trey Sermon is 4th on the depth chart. Maybe it goes back to drafting Trey Sermon to complement Trey Lance with someone who can run the options that they're going to get to when they get to Trey Lance. But that, again, horrible strategy to develop, to invest a 1st and a 3rd into players that you're counting on for next season. That would be wild to me. Maybe Sermon is having ball security issues at practice. That could be a factor. What we saw in preseason and game action leaves me scratching my freaking head because he appears serviceable. He appears to have talent, and we're just not seeing it. Typically, if you have somebody that's not playing badly, was drafted that highly, they would get more of an opportunity. They would get more room to run. So far, Trey Sermon hasn't. That was a Freudian slip. Trey Lance hasn't either. I don't think we're truly going to know the answer to this one until we get some extended playing time for Trey Sermon. It's not fair to say any conclusions about the young man because we just haven't seen enough. And that, to me, is the frustrating part. If he never gets the playing time, then we'll have our answer. That would be clear cut. All right, back into the comments to get caught up here. Debo Samuel fan, I don't think I did this one. Need to see some consistency from this team, a step in the right direction. No, I did see that one. I did. Niner sickness, Rams. Where's your dad? Who's your daddy? LOL. Same. Oh, sorry ass Rams. Niner sickness, what's up? How you doing? Good to see you in here. Yeah, I'm not going to take anything away from the 49ers in how they performed, but it does seem that we have the Rams numbers. That's for sure. Peter Lee, 2017 Christmas Eve game versus the Jags was just memorable. Yes, it was. I'll get back to that in a second. Really going to rewatch it before this Sunday's matchup. LOL. Jags hat and t-shirt game back in 2017. I was in Mexico for that 2017 game with my father and my brother. We don't live in the same area, so it's few Niner games that I get to watch with both of them. Now, I grew up going to games with my father and my brother. In 1986, 1987, we all started to go to games together, and then we got 2 seats, season tickets. And then my dad and I would go, my brother and my dad would go, my brother and I would go. It was a magical experience from a way in which men can bond and connect. And I think we struggle. I struggle as a man to communicate at times, and football allows me to have a special relationship with my father and my brother that maybe I otherwise wouldn't have and wouldn't have those shared moments. Anyway, they're special. And that game was special. It was fun to watch Jimmy light the world on fire in those 5 games. And that defense, 2017 Jacksonville defense, was legit. He went against Ramsey yet again. And we came out victorious. Eric coming in. Tom Compton is a fine run blocker, but I'd have to agree he's probably the worst pass blocking T in the NFL tackle. Jalen Moore did practice today on a limited basis. Ooh, that is solid news. Thank you, Eric, for putting it in the chat because that is uplifting. You would like them to have the choice of who they start and go with the better option that they think of. Steven, agree wholeheartedly. Steven says Debo was a beast on Monday. He was my freaking hero is what he was. Karthik, are we a half game from the 7th seed in the NFC? Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't correct you. You are correct. You are absolutely correct. We are only a half game out. Brian Culp, I agree with this. We can beat Cam Newton. The problem is we don't play the Carolina Panthers. That's the team where we have to rely on other teams to beat them for us. They're in the driver's seat, being ahead of us right now. I think they are a full game ahead. Could be wrong about that. They may also be a half game ahead. But we don't play them, so we can't knock them off. They have to get knocked off by others. I think there are other teams that can probably beat the Panthers with Cam Newton at quarterback, especially as he's getting back up to speed. Lapacalolo coming in here, just hypothetically, if the Niners make it to the Super Bowl, do the Niners still keep or trade Jimmy G? Again, hypothetically speaking. I love that you clarified that it's hypothetical so that no one trashed you too hard for that belief. That's something I might say there, being the homer and glass half full guy I am. But Lapacalolo, you can't afford to take shots in the comments saying that. So the hypothetical is important, but let's play it out. I struggle to believe there's a scenario where you bring Jimmy back next year because the contract is in its final season. The 49ers would have no leverage to get him to agree to a lesser pay scale. That's not true. They could pressure him pretty hard. They could say, hey, listen, take less money or we're going to cut you. We got no dead money tied up in it. Yeah, I guess I could see a scenario where let's say this, if he won the Super Bowl, yeah, absolutely. I think 49ers fans, even the Jimmy haters, if somehow, some way the Niners won the Super Bowl, why not run it back, right? Why not? If that happened. Eli coming in for the early score prediction. I gotta admit, Eli, I'm not ready for that one. I definitely have the Niners winning. I would hope that this is a game that the offense can stay right. You got to hope for somewhere between 28 to 35 points from the offense. I hope they beat them handedly. All right, I'm going out on a limb here. I remain that I may change this later after I've done my tape on Jacksonville, but I'm going to call it at 34-21. 34-21. I think we beat them by more than a score. Ben coming in. Ben, 49ers will defeat. Oh, look at this. That's a pretty close. What did I just say? 34-21. And Ben's in here saying 34-17. Ben and I are on the same page. And he says, just like what I predicted, defeat the Rams 34-13 score. You were definitely close, Ben. Well done. Tip of the cap to Ben. Cheers, sir. All right. Steven coming back in. We should be able to beat the Jags on Sunday. Yes, we should. It's a trap game. Can't fall into the trap, Niners. Zark Muckerberg is back in. Maybe these backups are pretty good, or McGlinchey is just that bad. McGlinchey, God bless the guy. I think he gets a lot of grief because he plays tall. He is tall, plays tall at times, and then gets beat by leverage by the defensive ends. And when you get beat, when you get out leveraged as a tall guy, that leads to some pancakes, and those are ugly. So I think we have a lot of ugly plays by McGlinchey that lead us to be a little harsher on him than maybe we should. I'm not saying he's worth the price tag that we have to pay for his fifth-year option, but he is a talented tackle. I mean, he is not at the bottom of the list of tackles in the NFL. And offensive lines in the NFL are not all that deep. So I think you got to hold on to a solid tackle when you have them. Karthik, guess which player is on my YouTube profile? And the 49ers will beat the Jags. Tush. Love it. Who's that? Fred Warner that I see in there? Is that all pro Fred? Yes, it is. Steven, keep the mentality from the win on Monday. It's a must. James, I really can't see us beating the Vikings. We don't match up well with their offense. We match up well with their defense, though. Will we have to outscore? Man, Dalvin Cook is a monster. I don't know, though. We do seem to have Kirk's number. Maybe Shanahan has a little insight there. Maybe he can help. Brandon coming in. My Colts softened up the Jags for you guys. Appreciate that, Brandon. Brandon is our resident Colts fan that we welcome in with open arms. Zark back. Cooper Kupp and Kendrick Bourne were on the same team at Eastern Washington. Yes, they were. They were fun to watch in person. They lit it up at Eastern Washington. They were both 1,000-yard receivers, if I'm correct. And there was another player that was on that team, that we recently played. I can't recall who it was. James, Colts struggled through the Jags. They aren't a pushover anymore. Wish we played them in September, October when their coach was more interested in hanky-panky. I'm sure he's still interested in that hanky-panky. He just was busted on national television, and now he's got to be a little more careful. But yeah, That team is rounding into form, and they are not a pushover. That's going to be a tough team, especially given all the factors we have covered. Steve-O, when did air yards become a thing? We just keep finding new statistics and new ways to use them because that's people love the NFL so much and they have to have their stats. Brandon coming in, not like how the Bills struggled against them. Our offense kind of turned off, but made the plays when it mattered the most. And Jags is a division game for us. The division games are always tougher, Brandon. And yes, they did beat the Bills. Wild. George, everyone knew we were going to run the ball. Can't stop it. So keep playing smash mouth, gritty football, sprinkled with those 10 to 15-yard passes out to Debo, Brandon Ayuk, and Kittle. Yes, George, that is the recipe. Peter Lee, Jimmy's TD total is going to drop at least 20 passing TDs. I like it. I hope he gets to 20 and then some. Eric coming back in. While I will say a QB has an influence on Yak, getting the player in position to get Yak, but I think Debo can get Yak on bad passes. He's just a beast. I am not going to argue that point at all, Eric. Debo is a freaking monster, having a monster freaking season. Brandon clarifying, we usually, talking about the Colts, split division games with the Jags, hoping we can sweep them this year. They seem sweepable for sure, but tough. Daniel, Jimmy has not been the problem. Similar stats to 2019. Yes, we covered that. That is true. What is different is the Niners haven't had the same running game and top defense as in 2019. That's what we have been expecting back since week 1. Yes, and didn't it look like we got it back against the Rams? You just got to hope that they hold on to it, that they found the identity and they don't lose it again, because they seem to have gotten away from it for so long and it was so frustrating. George talking about how do I feel about Jennings, Rob? I don't know. Who are we talking about, Jennings? You got to fill me in on that. Maybe my brain just isn't connecting things. Sometimes the synapses don't fire properly, but give me more on that, George, and I will gladly answer it. Eli, Niners just need to use the same formula of run it down your throat every game. Don't get away from it unless the other team proves they can stop it. Do it until they stop you, Coach Shanahan. Eric, yeah, I still can't figure out how the Colts lost week 1 in 2020. Indeed, throwing it back to the Colts. Steve-O, Kyle doesn't draft Rice-like players. He likes yak guys. He does. He loves positionless football. And I got to be honest, I freaking love it too. When it works, it is beautiful. Right, Steve-O? Right, indeed. All right, back into Eric here. Not sure about Sermon anymore. At least with the 49ers, he's clearly checked out and wants out now. Deleted all 49er stuff from Instagram. If he is checked out, not sure I would trust him going forward. I just want to clarify. I believe this is false reporting that got retweeted a bunch on Twitter. I need to go check it myself, but I have seen both the original quote that someone tweeted out that Sermon deleted all the Instagram stuff, and then a reporter that I trust saying that's not true. I went back and looked at it. So I'm going to say right now I'm skeptical of that report, Eric. But if you have a place, a reference, let me know, because I want to know the truth about that. If he is checked out, that's problems for sure. Chester saying Carolina has Cam. They aren't going anywhere. I hope that's the case. Ellis, can Jimmy Ward keep up the swag? Jimmy Ward was phenomenal. Wasn't he? Finally getting that much needed turnover. And then he got 2. And then he got 2. And then he makes a nice, funny comment to Grant at the podium. I love it. Edward coming in. Hey, Rob, do you think Jags are a trap game like Arizona? Absolutely. Thank God we already had that trap game against Arizona, so they can actually say that they know, yeah, okay, we're not going to take this lightly. We saw what happened when we took Arizona lightly. Look at what happened. We embarrassed ourselves. That defense was upset at themselves after that game, and rightfully so. I think 49er faithful, like myself, were embarrassed by that game. So thank goodness that's in recent memory, I think. James, trade Jimmy. Even if we win it all, recoup a first, shake his hand, and say thanks for your service. I guarantee it won't be because of him. That's probably true, and I'd be okay with it. Trey is the future. Trey is the future. And that leads me to, I'm going to come back in. Don't you worry, people. I'll be back to the comments to finish out the show. But I'm going to the last previously submitted question because of that tee up. With no first or third round pick in the next draft, what do the 49ers fans have to look forward to if they don't make the playoffs? Darius back in with a second quality question through the Gmail, 49ers.com. No, 49ers mailbag at gmail.com. That wasn't even close. So here was the entirety. No, that was the entirety of the question there. But let's say this. Quick note that I think many fans and even media folks are leaving out. This is an important detail, 49ers fans. I want everyone on my channel to be properly made aware of the 49ers draft for next year. The Niners, while they gave away their own third-round pick, do still have a third-round pick. They have the third-round pick, the compensatory one that they got for losing two people, Saleh and Mayhew. They got the first extra third-round pick last year. They get another one this year. They could trade it away. It's a tradable pick, but they haven't. So they still have their own second, the compensatory third, their own fourth and fifth rounders. They don't have their own sixth, but they do have the sixth rounder from Denver from the Jonas Griffith trade, and Denver's record, not great. So that's an earlier sixth rounder than hopefully their own would have been. And they're projected to get two compensatory seventh rounders, which will be determined at the end of the season, but the people who estimate those are almost always spot on. So I would expect that they do have those two seventh round compensatories. So what are the reasons for optimism, Niner faithful? I got two words for you. Trey Lance. Trey Lance. It's the future. The future is Trey. It's what we brought him in for. You took an inexperienced quarterback with unbelievable upside, and now you got to find out what that upside is. You got to invest in it. You got to surround him with the right people. You got to make sure he knows that he is valued within the organization and that Kyle Shanahan is going to do everything in designing an offense specifically for him. Once Jimmy's out the door and it's just Trey, that offense will be built around what Trey can do. The core of the roster is still their people, even with all the one-year deals where we will lose considerable veteran depth and we'll have to backfill that. You still have Trent Williams, Juice, Kittle, Debo, Elijah Mitchell, Mike McGlinchey, although I know he's not completely popular with fans, Bosa, Armstead, Fred Warner, Jimmy Ward. This is a talented roster. The core is absolutely there. Will they have to patch some holes? Yes. Yes, they will. The real question is, are Kyle and John the right men for the job? If they are, the 49ers could absolutely have another magical season soon. If some of those draft picks that didn't quite work out yet become stars next year, that's positive. The core is there. You got some young talent that could be special, but if they're not, if this draft class is a bust, it could get ugly. And if John and Kyle aren't the right people for the job and Jed decides he needs to move on, it will get ugly. I don't trust Jed to hire the next guy right away and make it a quality hire. But I do believe in John and Kyle. I still believe in John and Kyle. Yes, they've had their bumps along the road, but they are talented. They will figure this out. And I believe wholeheartedly with my optimistic heart that they will right the ship. All right, we're getting back into your comments to end this show. Here we go. Karthik coming in. Cam Newton was screaming, "I'm back," after he scored his first rushing TD with the Panthers. No, Cam, you're not back against the 49ers defense. I like it, but I don't think we play Carolina unless we come at them in the playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. James, I do, Edward, given that we have slimmer margin for error. That was a response to something else. Okay, Brandon saying, I think the trap game this week is Falcons and Patriots. That'll be interesting. James, coming in. Rob, what were your honest thoughts as we were lining up for fourth down on Debo's second TD? I thought it was the dumbest call. Up 3 scores, why give the Rams a chance at momentum? But man, that showed onions. Yes, onions is a good way to put that. James, I felt exactly how you did. I was screaming at my TV, why, don't do it. And then he did it and it worked. And I was like, thank God you don't listen to me. Yeah, it made me nervous. It it seemed at that point, it was a high risk, high reward, but really high risk. Had they just thrown an incompletion there, Rams ball, a lot of time still remaining, near midfield, a touchdown there, and it would have been, what, a 10-point lead at that point? Am I remembering that correctly? I was absolutely thinking coffin corner punt, pin them within the 5, and let the defense get back to work. But again, hey, if you got the stones to do it, do it. Kyle clearly did that time. Steve-O coming in. Nobody would give a 2 for Jimmy still. All made up by Butthurt Pat's reporter who dropped his book when Brady went home, the week that Brady went home. Yeah, I'm not so sure I believe the reports of the second rounder offered. Sorry, had to do a little sniff there. It's cold out here in Portland, getting a little bit of chill in the air. Rick coming in. Thanks, Rob. Was asking for my fantasy team. Absolutely. You're welcome. Anytime. Anytime. Here we go. Karthik. Urban Meyer or Jed York? Your thoughts. Which one's worse? I'd rather have Jed than Urban, personally. 49ers is truly family. Yes, it is, Rick. Yes, it is. Okay. Are we talking Jawan? There's some back and forth of Jawan that I don't know. Yes, Jawan Jennings, number 15, indeed. All right, Karthik back in. I believe in this defense more just because of their mentality, but don't lose it. You have to stay consistent. This Rams game is not a one-game thing. No, you've got to stay on top of it. You have to keep that momentum going in. Eli thinks that Jeff Wilson Jr. is the X factor. He certainly brings the mentality I'm looking for. I love it. Yes, I love it. Chester, Rice was the yak king. Rice was the king of everything, and I am loving it. He was my favorite player growing up, hands down. G. Reyes, Grant. Yeah, that was a Jimmy Ward response to Grant Cohn. They had a fantastic interview. If you didn't watch it, it was great. Jimmy Ward predicted what he would do to the Rams, predicted they would come at him, predicted it would be the same result that happened Monday night. James, to the comment from earlier, Rice was a yak guy, just didn't do it the way Debo does. He didn't run through people. Lots of design, short slants, handoffs, and plays to get the ball to Rice. Yes, that is true. He did not run over people. He wasn't built like Debo Samuel. He was much more of a speed guy, even though he wasn't known that way coming out of college. Ellis, I want to ride the hype train so bad, but I'm nervous about the Jags game. Nothing is guaranteed. I think 49ers fans should hold back. Keep the hopes high, but don't raise those expectations too much. That is a problem for sure. Karthik, I need to stop getting these good vibes because you never know what Kyle's next move is in chess. Also, he will think that the Jaguars' run D is good and run the ball. Yeah, so that maybe they don't run against them and get away from it. He needs to prove that the Niners can do it again, back to back. Steve-O should have said like a Julio Jones, but wanted to use a Niner wide receiver since most only see highlights. I may have missed a comment where the Jawan Jennings train got started. I'm a Jawan Jennings fan, if that was the question back there. I apologize if I missed it. Lapacalolo, yes, Trey is the future of this team, and we deserve to be excited about it. All right, Rick is talking to us and everybody. Let's vote Jimmy Ward and Debo into the Pro Bowl. Amen to that, Rick. Niner faithful, make sure you use those fingers, not just to like my videos and subscribe to my channel, which is an obvious use of those fingers, but also to click on Twitter, retweet those things, and get our Niners deserving players into the Pro Bowl, baby. Let's make Jimmy Ward and Debo Samuel Pro Bowl players. Yes, indeed. Karthik, also, this is a waste of a year if we don't mix in Trey against the Jaguars. I know we're a good, talented team, but the future is even more important to look forward to. I can't say that definitively. I've got to say that if we win the game, that's the most important thing. I do want Trey to get the snaps, but I got to say that the game is the most important. When there is a playoff window still open, that's the most important thing for me. I agree, we got to develop Trey, but you got to balance the priorities somehow. It's tough. It's real tough. Napa 2323, 49 likes. Let's smash that like button, y'all. Hey, appreciate it, Napa. Appreciate that. I may end up spending Thanksgiving in the Napa area. I'll be in Sonoma County, actually. Glen Ellen, to be more specific. That may be where I end up spending my Thanksgiving next week. Pretty excited about that. Eli coming in. They should let Trey get some snaps against the Jags. A lot of 49ers fans feeling that way, and I can't say that I blame them. I would, in an ideal scenario, I would get him snaps. If it comes in an awkward game where you can't tell whether it's going to go bounce the 49ers way, or it's a game that unravels in the way that the Rams game did where you were just dominating, then I'll back off needing to see Trey. But I really would like to see him. I really would. Steve, FYI, I was the 49th like. Booyah. You got to love when you're the 49th like. Sometimes when there's 49 likes, it has to sit there for a while because no one wants to be the person who moves it from 49 to 50, right? 49's got a nice ring to it, doesn't it? Here we go. Felipe, we might be able to get a third for Jimmy, I hope. I think that's reasonable. If he continues to show what he has the last 3 games, his trade value will climb back up because there'll be a team that says, we don't care about his 1-year cap value. We'll get him to sign a new contract when he comes in the building, and we'll spread out that cap hit over multiple years. And we won't pay him $27 million a year because he's more of a middle tier quarterback, and he could be paid more appropriately to his level of play. Jimmy's a very suitable quarterback. He's one of the 32 best athletes at quarterback in the world. I don't think people can really dispute that fact. I think he'll be starting for somebody next year. I just don't think it will be the 49ers. Kid Low, Rob, you are the freaking man. Get excited whenever the noti hits. Keep it up, brother. I love that, Kid Low. Yes, thank you for hitting the notification button because then if I go live on the random, you're able to jump in, and I love that. Melee coming in Huff with a big game this Sunday. I'm calling it now. Hufanga gonna ball out. I love it. TJ coming in with the big super chat. Love it. Rob, thoughts on Jacksonville's Jamal Agnew, who has Guam roots. His mom is Chamorro. Stay faithful, family. Let me know if I butchered that pronunciation of Chamorro. I need to look into Jacksonville. I have yet to peel back the onion. I get into my tape watching typically Wednesday night, Thursday, preparing for the next team. Oftentimes leading up to that, I'm knee deep in your questions here at the mailbag. But TJ, rest assured, I will bring that up not only on my Friday show with Grant on his channel, but immediately following that on my channel. Thank you for the donation. I take that seriously, and I will answer this question a bit more thoroughly as I'm not prepared for it at the moment. You've got my word on that, TJ. Mental note, Jamal Agnew. What are my thoughts? Felipe, I hope we keep the run train going. You and me both, that's for sure. Teams that get big wins seem to be sluggish the next week. The true test is when we go out there that it is a dominating win and we step on the Jaguars' neck. Deebo Samuel fan, yes, that is what we need to do. And we will need your man, Deebo Samuel, in order to get it done. Indeed. Tommy Huxley in here. Rob, is my super chat on the Grant Cohn Jimmy Ward video going viral again? That was the question that caused the trash talking about McVay and Stafford. I haven't seen it. I need to go check. Is that on Twitter right now, Tommy? I love it. I love it. Keep the super chat and chat trash talk about opposing players coming. Although I have to try and keep the cuss words out of there. I didn't see the S-bomb, but an S-bomb's not that bad. As long as it ain't an F-bomb, we good. I think you just got to be PG-13 on this YouTube thing. Chester Gray, Jags beat the Bills, but if we run the ball, then we can win. Yes, there's no question in my mind we can win this game. It's all about coming out with the right energy, matching the intensity that we had on Monday night. Karthik. Also, Jimmy said this trash talking Wards on Grant's interview in August, and it came up on Monday Night Football. He's a very intelligent man. Jimmy Ward is great. I love him. I didn't realize until I dug further into his game just how special he is. He got that bad rap for being injured a lot early on in his career, but man, has he come on in the last few. He just shuts down opposing tight ends and anyone that they match him up against. He is one of the better cover safeties in the entire freaking league. Eric, the Niners seem to handle the big win on Monday night. Totally different vibes than after the Bears. I think the mentality is right, and they will roll the Jags. Eric, I love your optimism. I frickin' feed off of it. Paul, tired of seeing Trey wearing a beanie on the sideline. I want to see some snaps too. I want to see some snaps. Zark, coming back. Rob, if Stafford's wife threw a pretzel at you, would you throw it back? This is coming from what was released by TMZ, that apparently Matthew Stafford's wife was in a regular section. She wasn't in a booth, as I would have expected, that she would have been in one of the booths behind glass up in that cold glass tower that we have there at Levi's. And she was getting trash talked by somebody, and she turned around and threw a soft pretzel at that person. Now, let's be clear. Those pretzels are not all that soft, right? They typically devolve into rock hard pretzels very quickly. So it may have been a violent thing to throw, but there was a Rams fan who observed that and then called her out. TMZ quoted that Rams fan, and then Stafford's wife apologized and admitted mea culpa. Yes, indeed, it was dumb of me. I'm not proud of myself for it. I wouldn't have thrown it back. I have been in that scenario at the Seahawks Niners NFC Championship game. I got a 50-yard line seat, the most expensive seats in the house, just one ticket to the game. I went solo, drove up from Portland, and I got peanuts tossed at the back of my head by rich people. Like, how does that happen? And no, I didn't turn around. I mean, probably because I was there by myself and could have gotten my ass whooped had I thrown peanuts back. But I'm not the type to throw anything either. I'm all about kindness and respect, and maybe that's soft of me, but I find my world is a better place when I'm kind to others, when I'm respectful to others. I find that I get more kindness and respect back. Clearly, Mrs. Stafford feels differently about that. Paul, can't even get Trey in with a three-score lead. Yeah, can't get Trey in to close out the game. Can't get Trey Sermon in to close out the game there, too. So Trey and Trey couldn't get in. Both Treys. Trey area is not happening at the moment. Just not happening. Karthik, this was Debo's second time being NFC Offensive Player of the Week. Debo. James, if we're up by 4 scores in the second half versus Jacksonville, Trey still will be wearing the beanie. I hope not. Ellis 10 with the super chat. Thank you. Great content, Rob. Like always, hit the like. Ellis, that means a hell of a lot coming in. I really do appreciate it. Brandon saying he's lying. I'm pretty sure I was 49th. Hey, I'll give credit to anybody who wants to have been that 49th like. You can be it. Steve-O, I don't need to lie. LOL. There's some debate in the chat as to who, in fact, had that 49th like. It's an important question. All 49ers fans are dying to know. Paul, if Jimmy continues to play like this, which he won't, we could get a second or a first for him. I don't know. Jimmy has played kind of Jimmy's level of ball. I don't know that it's unfair to expect him to continue to play in this way. The last 3 games have been very good games for Jimmy. So you could expect that you'll see a bit more of a regression to the norm. But his overall statistics on the year bear out pretty well to what you would expect from a healthy Jimmy. I agree, though. If he continues to play like that, we could absolutely, you would think, get a second rounder for him. A first seems like a stretch. It really does. Although I want one. AJB, what's up? How you doing? Felipe, Rob, you think we should draft a backup quarterback next year or sign a vet like, say, a Dalton? I would want to bring back Mullins. Interesting. I definitely think a veteran. I would not go with young and younger. That seems like a recipe for disaster. Zark, why aren't they making a big deal about Lawrence this season? First female NFL quarterback. That seems uncalled for, Zark. There's nothing wrong with having long hair or effeminate qualities. I get it's trash talk against an opposing player, but I try to keep it a little kinder. Not asking much, just, share the kindness. And then we beat his ass on the field. Greg, coming in, love the show. I'm appreciative of you being here. Thank you, Greg. Means a lot. AJB was just looking at our schedule. We might win most of these games if Kyle calls it, like the Rams game. There's hope. There is definitely hope, baby. Definitely hope. And I'm glad AJB sees it too. Steve asking, what days do I go live? Okay, so the current schedule as it sits, pre and post game, typically on Sundays, it's whatever is game day. But like yesterday, it was obviously a Monday, pre and post game. If it's not a Monday night game, I then do my typical interview shows on Monday. I'll bring on another guest. I've had great guests to this point. Jack Hammer, Jesse Naylor, a bunch of guys that I love having on here. Aaron from 49ers First Takes. Looking to have Silverado Kev on. Like, there are a bunch of people I've got on my list. Jason Aponte that I want to reach out to and see if I can have them on here. That's Monday nights. The mailbag is Wednesdays at 5. And then Friday, I do my show on Grant's channel and then immediately come over to this channel for a live finishing off some of the thoughts that we started on Grant. So my typical time with Grant is 11 a.m. and then the show starts on my end at 12 or 12:15 around then. I think I'm going to put my schedule up on the YouTube page so that you can see what the weekly schedule is. It is important to hit the little notification bell if you want to be notified of those random ones when I go live. So that's my advice on that. All right, we're getting towards wrapping it up. I want to make sure, yes, Burp is right. We got to get above 500. Don't get those expectations too high. TJ Campos, just want to share my first time ever going to a 49er game on Monday night, which was also on his birthday. Unforgettable experience. I'll be tuning in later this week for the Agnew analysis. Good vibes. Thank you, TJ. I want to call out, I think I missed it earlier, but the individual that sent the question that I led off with, Leo, had his birthday last week, and we didn't get his mailbag question on his birthday, but I want to give him a belated birthday shout out. Leo, happy belated birthday. TJ, happy belated birthday, and we will get that question about Agnew into the analysis for Friday. Ryan, Rob, don't you think they should keep Jennings at 3? I love Juwan Jennings at the 3. I love what he brings to blocking, run blocking. Goodness gracious. Yes, I love him as that third wide receiver. Gives you greater flexibility. Exactly what Shanahan is typically looking to do with the positionless players. I think he's an ideal fit. It's not frustrating, but I don't understand why he's not getting more run at that position. Karthik, how do I become a YouTube member again? There's a little join button next to where the subscribe is. You hit that join button and then it gives you some options that are explained. I will put out a video that explains different levels of membership. My commitment is to make sure that anybody who's trying to support this channel, who is a member, that you're feeling the value out of that. I appreciate that these are your hard-earned dollars that go towards supporting hopefully what you view as my quality time that I'm investing into this. And therefore, I absolutely want to make it feel worth your while there. Burp, Stafford frugal like that. Indeed. Steve-O, rich people drink too. LOL. Yes, going back to people throwing peanuts at the back of my head in the rich section, rich people do get trashed and do dumb things. Okay, Tommy with the question. Did we solve our run defense issue? Man, DJ Jones is a little nicked up, and he's like our last big lineman in there. DJ Jones, where's my DJ Jones barbecue sauce? You know I got to shout out Big Dave. Big Dave's barbecue sauce. That's DJ Jones's dad, Big Dave. They give a portion of their proceeds to charity. I did some research on Big Dave, and he seems like a high quality individual, so I wanted to support his stuff. He's not an official sponsor, but he knows that I put his stuff up on my channel, and he approves of that. And anytime DJ Jones has a big play like that frickin' play he made like a middle linebacker in the middle of the field with the open field tackle on the fake field goal, forget about it. Frickin' forget about it, Tommy. That was elite. So we're reliant on DJ Jones. As long as DJ Jones remains healthy, I think we have a chance. I don't view the Rams as a very potent rushing attack. I think we'll come up against some harder matchups, and the 49ers need to hope that they continue to develop other interior players. We're very thin there. I don't think we've fixed it, but I'm more optimistic. Steve-O, yeah, 2 interceptions in the first quarter. Yeah, right ahead. Tommy with the super chat. Do you see what happens, Larry, when you find a stranger in the Alps? This is what happens when you feed a soldier scrambled eggs. I think that's a reference back to my Big Lebowski comments that I will make on occasion here. I can quote that movie quite a bit. Zark saying, sorry, Rob, I couldn't help myself with the Trevor Lawrence comment. Great show. Thanks for keeping me sane. You are very welcome. Yes, Tommy, Rob Schuh, I know you've seen the censored version of the Big Lebowski. I haven't. Is that really what they say in the censored version of that line? That's incredible because that's really bad. Like that line, I had heard the interview with John and Jeff Bridges talking about the edited version of it, the censored version, and them just laughing their butts off because of the absurd language that was thrown in to replace all of the cursing in that movie. If you're young and you haven't seen The Big Lebowski, get off your ass and watch that movie. It's an all-time great. Best movie of the 90s, in my humble opinion. Raul, this is a playoff team. Don't go to the games. Imagine if Patrick Willis play. I'm not sure I follow that one. Okay, I agree with the first part. This is a playoff team. Maybe what you're saying with don't go to the games is don't support Jed York. I'm okay with that as a form of protest. I would agree if you had Patrick Willis on this team, that would be phenomenal. He says not, but I don't know where to insert the not. Insert the not. That sounds somehow filthy. James, Lebowski reference, nice. Yes, indeed. Joe Mama, great show. Like always, Rob, happy to see your growth. Thank you. I am thrilled to be here with all of you. I'm going to try and get through these last few comments. If you stop leaving comments now, we will wrap real soon. It's been a pleasure here today. Karthik echoing the sentiment. Happy birthday, Leo and TJ. Belated. Have a blessed day after all. Yes, indeed. Eric. Also, always tweets when going live. Follow the Left Schuh on Twitter for another way to get notified. That's a great call out. If you want to know when I'm going live, follow me on Twitter. I have many fewer followers on Twitter than I do have subscribers on this channel. So if you want the notifications and my game day tweets and random tweets as well, go follow on Twitter as well. I promise it's not as dark a place when you follow me as some of the rest of 49ers Twitter. Felipe, DJ Jones looked like Willis in that play. Yes, he did. Rob the dude. Thank you, my man. Brian Culp, the 49ers are about to get on a roll. Great show as always. Love the optimism. Freaking love it. Okay, James got a couple. What, were you sitting on December 5th? I'll try to throw you a few pretzels. Thank you. Thank you. I fall for the soft pretzel. I think it's going to be delicious like it looks, and then I buy it and it's rock hard and a $7 monstrosity. I don't even know if they cost $7 right now. But yes, I would appreciate getting some rock hard pretzels thrown at the back of my head. It'd be fantastic. Thank you, James. Hey, it's my goof friend, James. Good to see you, man. Yes, Tommy and James, buddies, best friends till the M. Kim Adams coming in here. Great, sure. Thanks, man. Hey, you're welcome. I don't know what that was in regard to Gabe. Yeah, insert the not. That was Freudian slip. Clovis, New Mexico, diehard 49ers. Nathan Dickey coming in. I think that you're saying New Mexico there. There's a Clovis, California as well. I went to college with a dude who came from Clovis. Rick, if you attend the Week 17 game versus the Rams, I'll be there. I will be there. My best friend lives in LA, and he and I are going to go to that freaking game. Mark it, Rick. If you're going to be there, let me know, and we will hook up. Yeah, I got your back if people start throwing stuff. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, my buddy, he'll be there too. He's a little tougher than I am. You know, I'm a low-key dude. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But, I'm glad I got some backup. I got some support now. Kim Adams, loving the show. Thank you very much for joining. All right, Nathan, I share everything you do. Love it. Bryant, special teams win championships. Hey, Robbie Gold hit a 50-yarder. How about them apples? James, good to see you too, Tommy Powell. Love the back and forth. Love it. I'm going out on Thomas's comment. Niners! Hey, thank you for joining me today. We went longer than I typically intend to on the mailbag, but I was enjoying myself too much not to go through it. I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully on Friday. I'll be over on Grant's channel at 11 a.m., I believe. If not, I will update it on Twitter. I'll shout it out if it's going to be a different start time, and then go live on my channel immediately following that. Thank you all for joining, and I'll see you again next time.